What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. Today, we're going to be doing a Big Ten conference expansion draft. Currently sitting at 18 teams. You could see them try to get to, I would say, either 20 or 24, more than likely in the near future. We did an SEC one the other day, by the way. So if you're interested in that, go check that out. Now, the Big Ten is going to be a little different than the SEC because geographically they're a little different. They've expanded out west already, but also the Big Ten kind of values some academics. So you could see some different schools like Stanford and Cal that would make sense in the Big Ten, but wouldn't really make sense for the SEC. Also, you've got like Notre Dame. I don't think Notre Dame, if they leave the independence, which I don't think they will, but if they kind of make it to where they have to, they'll more than likely go to the Big Ten. So we're doing 10 rounds each year, 20 picks total. It's going to be me versus AI. We'll see what AI does. We'll go along with that. And at the end of the video, let me know who you thought won the draft with their 10 picks, me or AI. I'm going to give them the first pick. But before we get started here, if you enjoy this type of content, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Comment where you think the Big Ten goes in expansion. And then if you are new here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. It does help out this channel. So starting off here, let's see what the AI goes with, and I'll give you their reasoning. So they're going to go with, no shocker really, Notre Dame. All right, their reasoning for Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the crown jewel of expansion candidates. It's a national football brand with a massive TV audience, rich tradition, and a strong academic reputation as an AAU member. Their independent status in football makes them a prime target, and their Midwest location fits the Big Ten's historical footprint. Adding Notre Dame would elevate the conference's prestige and revenue. All right, so again, they're going to go with Notre Dame here. All right, so for me, I've got four big teams jumping out to me right now that kind of make sense. You got Florida State and Clemson, which are two obvious ones. Uh, then you got Stanford and Cal, which were kind of rumored last time to maybe be in there. You've also got like some lesser ones like Virginia and North Carolina that probably will end up in the SEC, but those are two options. Um, I think I'm going to go with Florida State. Let me go ahead and put this in here. Yeah, we'll go Florida State. All right, so that one I think personally makes sense because Florida State's a big brand, a lot of money, a lot of revenue going to bring it in, and household brand in football as far as they've had a lot of success previously. And Florida State would help you get into Florida, which right now is obviously owned by the SEC and the ACC, but that helps you recruiting wise because you get your foot in the door. You kind of get that blueprint to where you can recruit in the Big Ten. So I'm going to go Florida State. All right, looks like they're going to go with, okay, this one makes sense. They're going to go Stanford. Their reasoning, Stanford is an AAU member. Again, makes sense with kind of what the Big Ten is big on. With elite academics and a competitive athletic program, particularly in football and Olympic sports, their West Coast presence extends the Big Ten's reach, building on USC and UCLA's additions, and taps into the Bay Area's affluent media market. Stanford's football pedigree with recent success and NFL talent adds depth to the conference. Let me go and update the big board. So they go Stanford. I think with that, I'm going to probably go. Yeah, I guess I'll just go ahead and continue it. Let's go Clemson. Let me top this in here so they know who I pick next. Yeah, so give me Clemson. Let me get this pulled up for you guys. Clemson, similar to Florida State, I think makes sense because you get a powerhouse in football that is really consistent nowadays. And then you also get a team that's kind of trending up. Clemson hasn't always been a household program, but the last 20 years under Dabo have really kind of shot up the big board there. So I think Clemson makes sense. All right, their next pick, they're going to go with North Carolina. All right, let me get this topped in here. All right, North Carolina. All right, let's figure out their reasoning here. North Carolina is an AAU member with strong academics and a competitive athletic program, particularly in basketball, but also with solid football potential. Their research triangle location adds a valuable media market and recruiting presence in the Southeast. UNC's brand and rivalry potential with Clemson would enhance conference competition. All right, so let's see. I could go Virginia or Cal. That's kind of what I'm thinking at the moment. think, yeah, give me Cal. Let's go Cal, I guess. I think Cal makes sense. You expand on the West Coast, you keep them with Stanford, you bring them in and they kind of fit. Another thing is they make sense AAU wise, like it's a big brand. Being Cal Berkeley, they have a lot of stuff as far as not necessarily football, but academically, and then kind of with Stanford as far as like the Olympic sports, they can really help you out there. So yeah, give me Cal. All right, so with their next pick, they're gonna go with Virginia. All right, so let's get their reasoning here. Let's see what they got. Now at this point in the draft, it's after Virginia, it's kind of good luck to you. Let's see their reasoning. Virginia is another AAU member with strong academics and a competitive athletic program, particularly in basketball and lacrosse. With football upside, their location in the DC adjacent media market adds significant TV value and recruiting access to the Mid Atlantic. Virginia's brand and rivalries would enrich the Big Ten's competitive landscape. Now, I mean, yeah, again, it's a crapshoot at this point. You could go with we could stay in Florida. We get Miami. Uh, you've got the big state schools, to where like normally when you're trying to do this, you're looking for teams that there's not a school in that state that's already in the Big Ten of the SEC. So like Kansas, Utah, Colorado, Arizona, those are all names that make sense. You could also try to dip into Texas because currently the Big Ten doesn't have a team in Texas. You try to get in Texas Tech or something. Uh, hmm. Let's go with. Hmm. I really don't know on this one, man. Let's go with. I think Kansas kind of makes sense here. So I'm gonna go. Yeah, let's go with Kansas. Let's go with Kansas. I think that makes sense. Because you can get, like I said, into a big state that's not already filled in Kansas, and basically get your footprint in the door there. They make sense geographically, all right, as far as however you want to space out the Big Ten. If you decide to do pods, if you go 24 teams, however you do that, whether it's 4 schools, 6 schools, 8 schools, whatever, uh, however you want to space that out, you can do that. But I think Kansas makes sense. It's also an AAU member. So, I mean, you're bringing that in prestige wise. Um, you're also bringing in, what's the word I'm looking for? A basketball school. Basketball wise, Kansas is a powerhouse. And they're bringing basically a Final Four contender every year. As good as Bill Self is, I know they've kind of struggled lately, but they're going to be in the top 25 already every year, and it just makes sense to me. I'm trying to argue with AI here. They picked Washington, but they're already in the Big Ten, so I'm telling them to go again. Um, let's see what they're going to go with. They're going to go with all right. Interesting pick here. They're going to go with Duke. Share this tab for you guys. All right, Duke makes sense because I mean you bring them in with North Carolina. I think that gives you another basketball school, especially if you've got Kansas too. If like that happened, if you happen to get Kansas, North Carolina, Duke, I mean that's bringing in some serious basketball presence. But their reasoning: Duke, an AAU member, is a basketball juggernaut with a growing football program. Their academic excellence aligns with the Big Ten standards in the Raleigh-Durham media market. Paired with North Carolina strengthens the conference's Southeast presence. Duke's national brand and rivalry potential with North Carolina and Virginia would elevate conference competition. All right, so we've got. Let me look at who I've got so far, actually. All right, so we've got Florida State, Clemson. So we've got our presence there. We've got Cal. We've got Kansas. So I think I'm good in terms of like in that Southeast. It's like I don't think we need to get Virginia Tech necessarily, although that is an option here. The options kind of under consideration. Let's see. We've got Utah, Miami, Arizona, Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Iowa State makes sense. BYU is a team that's trending up. Like with NIL, I think BYU is going to be a legitimate presence in football and basketball. Colorado, Virginia Tech, Pitt. Pitt's another one that makes sense. Dang. I'm gonna take a flyer here. We're gonna give it a shot. Give me Texas Tech. I know it's a little questionable. Let me go ahead and let them know who I'm picking. I know it's a little questionable, but the more you think about it, if the Big Ten somehow got a presence in Texas, you can start competing with the SEC for that Texas recruiting talent. Like as of right now, yeah, you're going to be able to get the big guys that want to go to Ohio State, want to go to Penn State, want to go to Michigan and Oregon. But if you get Texas Tech, you're going to start getting even the lower schools in the Big Ten are going to start getting recruits that aren't so widely heralded in the Big Ten in Texas, and that's going to really change up some things. So I think Texas Tech would actually fit. You bring them in. You know, we've already got who do we got so far? Kansas. They could even fit in with Florida State and Clemson. You know, if you want like a South region, and so Texas Tech, I think, would be a good fit, and that would allow you to challenge a little bit in Texas for recruits. All right, so next up, they're going to go with Georgia Tech. All right, I kind of like this pick. Get you in Atlanta. Georgia Tech would be a solid pick, though, I think, because I don't think they'll end up in the SEC because I think there's some type of unwritten rule that they already have with some of these teams in the SEC that they can't like join or something. But their reasoning: Georgia Tech is an AAU member with strong academics and a solid athletic program, particularly in football with historical success and recent resurgence potential. Their Atlanta media market is a major prize, adding a massive TV audience and recruiting hub in the Southeast. The Yellowjackets' rivalry potential with Clemson enhances the conference. Let's see what direction we're going to go now. I mean, we're getting slim pickings. I guess I could keep going with what I've been doing. Miami's still on the board. That's another option. Give me. Let's go Arizona. They at least offer you some good stuff basketball wise. I was going to go Utah. That was the other option, but I think I'm going to go Arizona. I think they offer you enough, and I think they've got upside to where if they did sneak into the Big Ten, they might be all right. You know, trying to get this graphic pulled up for you guys. There we go. All right, but Arizona does have potential, I think, in terms of elevating their program if they were in the Big Ten, and in particular with Texas Tech too. You get some good recruits from Texas. Whoa, okay, I didn't have this team on the big board. Let me add this graphic real quick. They're going to go with Vanderbilt. I didn't see this one coming. Let's see their reasoning here. Vanderbilt is an AAU member with elite academics. Wait, let me pull this up for you guys first. Hold up. Let me get this top 10. Vanderbilt. Where's this graphic? I haven't pulled up. All right. Their reasoning here. Vanderbilt is an AAU member with elite academics and a football program with untapped potential in the SEC. Their Nashville media market, a fast-growing hub, adds significant TV value with their football. While their football has lagged, their baseball and basketball programs are strong, and their academic alignment makes them a strategic addition. Okay, I didn't have an SEC team on the big board, but all right. So let's see where I'm going to go next. I mean, with the direction I've gone so far, I guess we can keep going with the big, like the schools from the states. So give me Utah. I think Utah makes sense geographically with what we've already added, and I think kind of they will make sense in terms of just a Big Ten school. Number one, they're an AAU member, so they're going to make sense academically, but you pair them with some of those schools we've already got out west. We've paired those with some of the schools we've added and kind of that central location. Utah just makes sense for me. All right, so they're going to go with Colorado. Solid pick there. I did have them on my big board. That was kind of one of the state schools I've been talking about. Let me mark them off my list, actually. Let's see, Colorado. All right, their reasoning: Colorado, another AAU member, brings a resurgent football program under Dion in a strong athletic tradition. The Denver Boulder media market is a valuable addition, enhancing the Big Ten's Western presence. Their academic profile and scenic campus add to the conference's appeal and recruiting pool. All right, so we're in round 8 now. It's again slim pickings at this point. We could go Miami's still on the board. Miami. Oklahoma State's another option. Iowa State makes sense. You've already got a team in Iowa. BYU, again, is a team I think is trending up. Virginia Tech, Pitt. Hmm. Let's go with let's go Oklahoma State. I've already added Texas Tech, and you backtrack it was a long time ago at this point, but you backtrack to when there were some rumors, if you remember, of Texas going to uh there it is. Some rumors of Texas going to the Pac-12 with Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. And I think Oklahoma State is a good fit if you're bringing in Texas Tech because they match with them. You bring two teams that are kind of in that southern portion. You've also got Arizona coming in, Kansas, and this helps you compete with the SEC and Oklahoma for recruits. So I think Oklahoma State would be a good option there, even though they're not just the best school in every sport necessarily. All right, so their next pick, they're going to go with good pick here. They're going to go with Pitt. Pitt was a team I actually had on my board that made sense because number one, they're in the state obviously with Penn State, so that makes sense. But also their reasoning: Pittsburgh is an AAU member with respected academic profile and a storied football history, including national championships. The Pittsburgh media market adds a strong Northeast presence, bridging the Big Ten's Midwest and East Coast footprint. Pitt's basketball program and rivalry potential with Penn State enhance the conference. That's been a question on me is why neither of these conferences ever. Maybe it's because there's no huge schools out there, because like Syracuse is probably the biggest one I'm thinking of. I guess Rutgers, but branch into like that New York area, try to get up in there. Maybe still some of those recruits. I know it's probably not the biggest football, but it's a big media market. So let's see. We've got 2 picks left here. Miami's still on the board. Iowa State, BYU, Virginia Tech. Those are kind of what I'm leaning here. Let's go ahead and I guess I'll go. Yeah, screw it. We'll go Miami. They're still on the board, and they're just probably the biggest name school left. I would say they don't necessarily make sense, but you bring up Clemson and Florida State with them, and then it kind of. I think they go together if you bring in all those. Now you're probably gonna need another school out there. That's the one thing that we don't necessarily have. Um, I guess you could pair them with. I don't know. I guess you could pair them maybe the Texas and Oklahoma States. I don't know. But Miami is the biggest presence I would say known that's not there yet. So Miami makes sense. They're going to go. They're still another SEC school. I don't necessarily agree with this. Let me go ahead and change this graphic again. They're going Missouri, which is a little questionable to me. I didn't see them doing that. We're just going to leave it on this because I don't have the Missouri graphic made. But their reasoning: Missouri, an AAU member, offers a strong SEC football program and competitive basketball team. Their location in the St. Louis, Kansas City media markets reinforce the Big Ten's Midwest core while adding a border state with recruiting upside. Missouri academic alignment and regional rivalries with Kansas round out the conference nicely. I mean, I guess, like I said, I don't necessarily see anybody leaving the SEC just because it's such a money pit. I don't see that happening. All right, so my last pick, we've got 3 teams in consideration here. We've got BYU, Virginia Tech, and Iowa State. Iowa State makes sense with Iowa. Virginia Tech makes sense with the Florida schools. But I think BYU has the highest upside because with the way the NIL is going, they just throw their money at these recruits. And we saw that in basketball that they're trending up. We see that in football, they're trending up. So let's take a swing. Give me BYU. I think it's kind of an under the radar pick. I don't know if I love it, but it fits with Utah. It fits out there with Arizona, and it could fit in with the California schools, I think, too. So it kind of makes sense to me. But it's might not be the greatest pick. It could backfire, but I think it has potential with the way sports are headed. So to recap, here is the final of the draft. Team AI went round 1, Notre Dame, Stanford, North Carolina, Virginia, Duke, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, Colorado, Pitt, and Missouri. As for my team, I went with Florida State, Clemson, Cal, Kansas, Texas Tech, Arizona, Utah, Oklahoma State, Miami, and BYU. So who do you think won the draft and why? Let me know down in the comment section. Also, What do you think the Big Ten does? Do they expand? If they do expand, are they going to 20, 24? How many teams do you think, and who do you think those teams are? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video, and most importantly, subscribe.